The prison yard roars. Inmates swarm and tussle trying to get a glimpse of the action. The two middle-aged men square off, tentative, waiting for an opening. It's down to the decisive point in the pickleball championship, and only one can be victorious. It's been a productive recreation hour. 100 miles away, guards flood into a cell. Two prisoners are brawling, one armed with a homemade shank, a melted toothbrush slick with blood, and the guards don't hesitate. They lunge at the inmates, batons raised. Seconds later, one prisoner is dragged out while medics rush to treat the victim. Prison life varies wildly depending on whether you're in minimum or maximum security. We're breaking down the ugly truth in this episode of the Infographics Show. The alarm sounds at 5 a.m. George Sims, already awake since 4:45, straightens himself up before the guards walk through. The 52-year-old, serving 7 years for securities fraud, steps out of his bunk. He casts a look around the dorm-style room that he shares with 7 other at Yankton Federal Prison Camp in South Dakota. They're all here in federal prison for financial and certain drug crimes, and morning is an orderly affair. George heads off to the sinks and showers, briefly cleaning up before roll call. There isn't much privacy and the showers aren't exactly steaming hot, but it is a familiar routine. But they're not free, and they'll be reminded of that soon. At 5 a.m. on the dot, the guards arrive. This will be a cursory examination, but one you don't want to take too lightly. These men aren't seen as a threat, but every prisoner is seen as some level of a risk factor. So every day begins the same way, a room and a personal inspection. Each of the men is given a quick check and the room is briefly swept, and the guards give the okay before heading off to check one of the other dormitory cells. They'll be back soon enough to give the hungry men the all clear to head down to breakfast. But far away, the wake-up call looks very different. There's no alarm clock in Arthur Fletcher's cell, just the sounds of the guards banging on the cell block doors. He's been here for 3 years for robbing a liquor store. He didn't shoot anyone, but ramming a cop car during the getaway meant the judge threw the book at him. Since then, he's been locked up at Missouri's Potosi Correctional Center, the highest security prison in the state. He spent most of that time in his cell. The last guy in the bottom bunk was transferred 3 weeks ago, leaving the concrete walls as Fletcher's private kingdom, which suits him just fine. He doesn't like company, but his feelings don't matter. Inspection here is rough, a degrading affair that involves not just a sweep of the cell, but a hands-on search of the body, just in case Arthur managed to somehow carve a weapon overnight. A few days into his sentence, he had cracked a joke that the guard should take him to dinner first. He quickly learned that humor doesn't go down well in prison. Now the searches are part of everyday life, just one of the many indignities you encounter when you're in a maximum security prison. At least there's chow to look forward to. When he first arrived, he was looking forward to the chow hall. After all, what better place to show that he is the top dog? But it wasn't meant to be. The chow hall had been shuttered for years due to a constant stream of gang fights and turf wars. Even the most secure area isn't all that secure when hundreds of inmates with plastic forks are looking to settle old scores. So after the cell's checked and the bars are closed, he watches the slot near the bottom for the delivery. And breakfast comes in a box. It's like the world's least glamorous DoorDash delivery. Arthur's breakfast ration is simple and designed to be eaten without utensils, which he's not upset about. Today, it's an egg sandwich with what looks like a microwaved waffle on the side and a banana. There's also a carton of milk. He could be fooled into thinking that he's back in middle school. It's all bland, lukewarm, and fairly predictable, but it'll fill him up. Now there's nothing to do but wait for the next stage of the day. And far away, a very different breakfast is unfolding. When the guards give the all-clear to head to breakfast, George and his cellmates follow the familiar path. This is a casual affair. They're often talking amongst themselves, but that doesn't mean there aren't rules to follow. Everyone here knows the score by now. Keep a safe distance, keep your hands to yourself, and definitely don't touch the guards. Things stay calm as you enter the dining area. The inmates who work on the food crew have been up early, prepping breakfast and serving it to the early arrivals. It's almost like a hotel breakfast. Almost. Breakfast is served cafeteria style here. George grabs his tray and heads up to the counter. Some people opt for lighter choices, but he goes ahead and he gets what looks like a baked omelet with peppers and sausage, as well as a bagel and a banana. It'll fill him up. The food is obviously mass-produced, likely from an industrial food company, but it tastes good. He grabs a spork from the side before heading back to his table. Inmates here are given a little more trust, but this flimsy plastic instrument isn't hurting anyone unless they get creative. Breakfast ends and it's back to the room for a quick rest before it's time to get to work. One of the most important things about any prison is that no one stays here for free. Room and board doesn't come with charges, of course, but any extras, such as the prison commissary, have to be paid for with your own money. George has plenty of family members who can send him cash, but he doesn't mind work detail. It breaks up the day and it provides more independence and privileges around the prison. Besides, if there is one thing he's learned from the business world, it helps to have powerful people on your side. Besides, it's not like he's doing hard labor. George works in the prison's main office under the strict supervision of the head receptionist. It's simple work, copying, filing envelopes, and working on the computer to collate data. It's all second nature to him. He started work as a bookkeeper decades ago, and he generally does his work quietly. It allows him time to think, and at the end of each shift he's got a little more in his commissary fund. Besides, it'll let him hear all the gossip the head secretary has to share about her son's disastrous love life. There are few things that minimum security and maximum security have in common, but work detail is one of them. Arthur waits in his cell until the guards come by. It's time for the hard part of the day to begin. In the maximum security prison, you don't get many choices, and work is one of those where your fate is largely decided for you. The prison is still heavily staffed by inmates, but they work in smaller groups under close supervision, and the jobs are less desirable. Some work in the kitchen preparing the meals that are delivered to the cells. Others work in the laundry room, getting an up-close and personal look at the other inmates' lack of hygiene. But Arthur, he's got one of the worst jobs. At least there's fresh air. He's one of the members of the grounds crew working on cleaning up the litter outside the perimeter, keeping the grass short and the bushes trimmed. It's also the job that potentially gives the most opportunity to escape. You just gotta make a run for it, scale a fence, and then get loose in the woods. He's even got access to weapons in the form of lawn equipment. But the guards don't seem worried. One stationed a few feet away with a rifle trained on the crew, and the guard towers will be able to shoot down anyone who makes a break for it. One guy tried about an hour into Arthur's time here, and that was enough to scare everyone else off of the idea. The only thing keeping him on task? Break time. For Arthur, lunch doesn't necessarily mean a change of scenery. There's no need to take everyone back to their cells from work duty just to ensure they're fed. That's what the guards are for. So lunch has been brought by the staff, and it gets unloaded right there as the clock strikes 11:30. The crew puts down their tools, cleans off slightly, and each prisoner gets an individual lunchbox. It's not exactly fine dining. Lunch is likely to be even more bare bones than breakfast, as it's designed to be eaten on the go, quickly and easily so you can get back to work. Today's offering is a ham and cheese sandwich, slightly lukewarm, with bread that tastes like it's been sitting out for a day or two. But Arthur chows down, hoping he won't get food poisoning from it. And just like that, as the short lunch period is over, it's back to work. 2 more hours of picking up trash and trimming the grass. It's enough to make him exhausted, and that might be the point. Any thoughts of escape are long forgotten. No surprise, George is having a better time. The shift at the office is over, and it's time to head for lunch. Much like breakfast, this meal is served in a cafeteria setting. However, being in a federal prison, George knows a bit more of what to expect. The Federal Bureau of Prisons serves a national menu, and it's usually simple fare, like sandwiches as well, although these are hot and prepared more recently. Today, it's the old standard, hamburgers. The burger patties are obviously pre-formed and cooked from frozen, but if George closes his eyes, he can almost pretend it's McDonald's. And then it's back to work. George's shift at the office is over, and he's now being sent to his second job of the day, but it's not a glamorous one. The cooks are off duty and the cleanup crew is sent in. George is one of the well-behaved inmates here. The white-collar guys tend to be, which means everybody shares the scut work. Ahead of him are 2 long, unpleasant hours of scrubbing dishes and stacking them for the next day's cooking crew. It's unglamorous, but the men assigned to it work professionally and finish in good time. It's exhausting, but there is no time to rest. The workday's over around 4 p.m., and that means a rare reprieve from the drudgery of life in prison. Even a minimum security prison means you have very little control over your day, and George feels the oppressive nature every time he's inside. But now he's headed to the yard, and he has an appointment. He and Martin Harris have been going back and forth on the pickleball court for weeks now, and their matches have become a spectator sport for the other inmates. After all, how often do you get to see a former governor lose at pickleball? Yes, there might be some big names in minimum security, but here, former titles don't matter. Governor Harris was entrapped in a major bribery scandal 5 years ago, and there's a sense of satisfaction every time George sees him. He didn't vote for him either time, but under this roof they're just fellow inmates, and the daily pickleball match has become a bright spot for both of them. The match is tense as always, with both exercising just enough caution to make sure they don't make a trip to the prison medical wing with a torn ACL, and George scores the winning point with the men shaking hands as they part for the day. With a short time left in their recreation hour, George grabs a drink of water and watches the men playing basketball or jogging around the yard. Some are working out, but there are no free weights here. Even white-collar criminals can't be trusted with that. For Arthur, it's going to be recreation, but no relief. In a maximum security prison, the recreation yard offers an hour of fresh air, but very little freedom. Arthur is taken back to his cell after his work detail, giving him a brief opportunity to towel off in the sink before it's time for the exercise hour. The groups are taken to the yard in small numbers and given strict orders to not get too close to each other. The guard towers are clearly visible from every angle. There's a clear warning that anyone who steps even a little bit out of line could wind up on the business end of a bullet. So you might as well make the most of it. Arthur goes for a jog in his area of the yard, loosening up his muscles after hours in the garden. He can see a few men playing basketball. They've got the one ball at the facility, and he notices some familiar faces missing. They must be in the solitary cells after an infraction. That means no access to the yard or any other privileges. And while this hour of exercise isn't exactly thrilling, it offers a brief release from the monotony. Arthur made the mistake of ticking off the guards a few times, and 2 times in solitary was more than enough. And this threat might be one of the few things all prisoners have in common. As George heads back to his dorm from recreation, he witnesses a grim sight. Tom Parker, one of his fellow workers at the office, being escorted away by 2 guards. Parker, a drug inmate, has been complaining about jonesing for a fix the last few days. He probably tried to get his hands on some contraband. Yankton is seen as a fairly easy prison to do your time, but it relies on trust for the inmates. If someone crosses it, their punishment is likely to be just as serious as it is at a high-security prison. And the odds are all the inmates will pay a little for Parker's offense, with greater security for the next few days. It's best to stay clean, in more ways than one. George is ready for a shower. Each of the dormitory-style rooms has its own individual facility, with bathrooms, sinks, and a communal shower. The men are coming in at their own pace from work, and that allows George to slip in and get the most of his shower solo. Another man comes in as he's finishing up, and they avoid eye contact as they slip past each other. Nothing the other man hasn't seen before. There isn't much dignity in it, but at least it offers a little freedom. Something that's hard to come by in maximum security. Arthur needs a shower, and he knows the routine by now. After a hard day of work and some exercise in the yard, he's ushered toward the community shower with several other men. All are searched, and then they strip naked and quickly get under the rushing cold water, trying to get clean as quickly as possible. No one cares much about modesty here, nor is anyone worried about dropping the soap. This is a fast, unpleasant affair that has become just another part of the daily routine. And then it's chow time. Arthur's back in his cell for the familiar routine, and soon enough the tray slides in with dinner. This one comes with a spork, luxury. Dinner tonight looks like a fried chicken cutlet, more like a large chicken finger with spongy meat, a side of potatoes, and some steamed vegetables. It's carb-heavy and exactly what is needed after all that work. As in, it's got Arthur ready to sleep as soon as the sun goes down, which might be what the staff wants. After all, activities are done for the day now. But in minimum security, there is still some life to be had. Dinner is the same routine, heading off to the cafeteria for the biggest meal of the day. George is grateful he's not on the cleanup crew for this one. The meal includes meatloaf with gravy, alongside mashed potatoes and peas. It's humble fare, but it's tasty enough. And before heading back to the dorm, he's also able to get a pack of cookies from the commissary. But there's still a choice of activities for the evening. Some men are choosing to head to the chapel for services, while others are attending the Narcotics Anonymous meeting. Arthur has chosen to attend a seminar on reintegration into society after prison. He'll be eligible for early release next year if he stays clean. But across the country, there are far fewer choices to be had. Once dinner happens, maximum security prisons start to lock down. Arthur is in his cell, alone, and breaks out the horror novel that he borrowed from the roving cart offering inmates reading material. It's a pulpy murder fest, and the guards are probably glad that he borrowed it instead of one of the more hard-boiled lifers. Don't need to give them any ideas. He reads until he hears "lights out," and then another long night begins. And in minimum security, it's not that different of a story. George's seminar is wrapped up and he's back in his dorm. Soon he's joined by all of his fellow inmates, and the guards come in to do a night check. Everything is clear and the dorm is locked down for the night. The inmates have more freedom when they settle in for the night, and no one's checking if someone's using a flashlight to keep reading. But soon enough, the lights all go dim and the sound of snoring starts. The doors to the dorm won't open again until a guard check at 5 a.m. Because in minimum or maximum security, one thing is true no matter what: you are locked up and you are not getting out anytime soon. Now watch how insanely creative prisoners escape from maximum security prison, or click on this video instead.